yeah, just want to welcome you all. So we are Capital Mass, in case you don't know. Capital Mass is an organisation that's set up to support the Church and the Diocese of London tackle poverty, inequality and issues they see socially around in their parishes. And we're focusing for a month particularly on empowering churches and supporting them to help talk about money, help people who are struggling with money. Post-COVID, we feel like this is only going to get worse with unemployment and with people struggling with benefits. So this is the beginning of that series. You're very welcome. We'd love to, I hope this is a helpful session for you, and we have some more sessions which I'll talk about at the end. I'd love to just welcome, first of all, Clive and Veronica. They're from St Barnabas, Homerton. So I'd love to maybe come to you first, Clive, if that's okay. Just like to introduce yourselves, a little bit of the setting of St Barnabas, Homerton, and then could you just explain what was that led you to start thinking about talking about money in the church?
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name's Clive. I'm Vicar of St Barnabas, Homerton, which is part of Hackney. And I've been at St Barnabas for 8 years now. St Barnabas is in Homerton, which is a very mixed area. It was, I suppose, a traditionally poor area. Some of it's getting gentrified, but I think it's an area where many people struggle to survive, let alone thrive. A lot of unemployment, quite a lot of people below the radar who are not actually here legally. People trying to hold down 2 or 3 jobs just to pay the bills, and that was before COVID. So the thing that was sort of caught Capital Mass's eye, our moment of stardom, was at the beginning of last year, 2019, when we ran the CAP Money course over 3 Sunday mornings at St Barnabas, which seemed quite radical to us, and obviously seemed radical to Capital Mass, which is why they got interested in it. So yeah, I mean, we basically changed those 3 Sunday morning services so that the CAP Money course could be featured as the main item. But just to say how we got to that, again, yes, as Alison said, things go back quite a way. I had dabbled in CAP for some time at my previous church in Highbury. We had made moves to become a CAP debt centre, but it came to nothing. But we'd been very caught by both the vision of CAP and the excellence of its work. And when I came to Highbury, 3 of us, Veronica and myself and my wife Judith, we went on a CAP Money course in 2014, and if my memory serves me right, the trigger for that for me was that in the previous year, a couple in the church had been coming to me almost every week wanting to borrow money, small amounts, sort of £10, £15, promising they'd pay it back. The debts with me mounted up. I mean, it was small stuff, but I was thinking, how can we get on top of this? Their money is chaotic, it's out of control. So I suggested that one of them sat down with me and we looked at a budget worksheet, and just to see what's coming in, what's going out. And they'd not, you know, in a way their finances were quite simple. So we started doing that. And what happened was that it was quite clear why they were in debt. And that's one of the main reasons was, well, lifestyle, addictions to tobacco and to alcohol. But what happened was that it became uncomfortable for them. They backed off. So it never got resolved, never got sorted, which was a big disappointment to me. I thought, we've got a tool here that will work. And that's what propelled me to think about the CAP Money course. Because I thought, well, maybe, you know, this chap might have come on a general course where it's not so intimate, but he would still be given the tools to try and get on top of his money. So that's why the 3 of us went on the CAP Money course, 2014. And then it came, what did we do with it? Well, not very much. 3 trained money coaches. And if I remember, the years go by, other things creep in. We didn't feel we got the capacity to run a course. But I think all the time we were thinking, is running a course going to be the right thing? A sort of a midweek course, who's going to come on it? It feels a big investment of our time. Can we run the course and invest time in coaching if that's what's needed? So it got left. And then the trigger for what we did at the beginning of last year was when Veronica had been on Get Savvy About Universal Credit. And she came back and said to me, we need to do something about this, or we agreed we needed to do it, because that course had flagged up that people are going to find the transition onto universal credit very difficult. It's, you know, that 5-week gap where before they get their first payment. And people really need to prepare in advance. They ideally need to save some money to tide them over. And so we thought, what do we do? Do we have a slot in the Sunday morning service when Veronica can say something? And we thought, well, is that going to be sufficient? Perhaps people need much more. How can you, save some money when you haven't even started sort of sorting out your money generally? So then I had this, or I suppose, an inspiration. Why don't we run the CAP Money course for everybody? And let's be bold and daring and run it on 3 Sunday mornings. Because if we ran the course, as I said, during the week, to be realistic, we would get 6 or 7 people. We're not a sort of an area where people go to courses. I think people would find them intimidating. And the people who really need to go on it probably wouldn't come. So I thought, let's run it on a Sunday morning where we're likely to get 60 or 70 people, and they're just going to get it without having sort of bought into it. And I suppose this is typical me sometimes. Veronica will agree or disagree. I said, we're not going to warn people. They're going to turn up on the Sunday morning expecting a Sunday morning service, and they're not going to get it. Because I thought if we advertise it, that's probably going to put some people off. They think, I don't want to go to a money course on Sunday, I'm not going. But also I thought people need to taste it and see and realize this is really, really good. And I would say it's very much part of our Christian worship and discipleship. Everything comes under that umbrella. So we ran it over 3 Sundays. We have an hour-and-a-half service. The first half an hour we did ordinary service. We had worship songs. We had an all-age time. At 11 o'clock, the children went to their groups. And then the next hour was devoted to CAP Money course, bit abridged. Veronica and I sort of did sections, and then we showed some of the video teaching clips from the course. So that's how we got to that. I don't know if you want to ask me a question or whether Veronica can take over.
Well, I'd love to ask you both, actually. I mean, I think one of the things that we all know is that no one likes talking about money, and church talking about money seems even more of a taboo. We don't talk about it at all in church, or certainly it's not a culture I've ever been part of in a church where people sort of openly talk about their own money situations. And we normally expect when we hear about money in church, it's going to be, can you give more to the church? That's pretty much the only time we talk about money. I'm sure that's not the case in all churches, but certainly I think there's a lot of experience. Did you, so just for you and Veronica, Clive, did you have any fears or worries, or what were the barriers that you thought might have been stopping people from, or stopping you from doing this? What were your fears around it?
Veronica?
That no one would turn up, or they'd all vote with their feet halfway through and walk out, but they didn't. They didn't.
Great.
Yeah, I think they were caught by it. We got very, very little negative feedback. I think people, because the course is excellent and enjoyable, actually. And I think people felt this is really interesting and can be a bit fun in places, but also they could relate to it. And it wasn't heavy, but it was simple building blocks about budget, save, spend, and if you're in debt, this is where you can start to get help. I think we're the sort of church which has got used to having things done a bit differently sometimes. I don't know how well it would have gone down in a church which is very rigidly always the same on a Sunday morning. So occasionally we've had what I call an Indaba Sunday, where we change the chairs round in church. We have a bit of worship, but we have people sitting at tables, we have some input, we discuss topics. So people, I think, have got used to sometimes Sunday morning being a bit different.
Great. So was it, yes, but interestingly, people didn't, you might have had your own fear about doing it, but actually that wasn't the experience of when you actually started delivering it.
No.
And Veronica, I think you ended up following up quite a lot of this. Can you tell us how people responded initially and then what's happened since then?
Right. Well, the first week we did it, yes, people's attention was sort of captured, but you know, it was still sort of quite an ordinary Sunday, and off they went. The second week we did it, suddenly more people stayed for coffee, and they were all talking about money, which is absolutely wonderful, because I mean, I don't know whether this applies in other churches. I've never been a treasurer anywhere else. But one thing that I've found is that money in almost all forms, yes, is taboo. I am, for example, the only person that can connect stewardship envelope numbers with names. And if that were to be any other way, there would be a lot of people who would not be very happy. So money's it's a very, very private subject. But yes, Clive asked for feedback, and we said, yes, you know, if you want to talk to someone, then you can. One of the other things, when Clive was saying we might get 6 or 7 people on a course, well, actually, I was rather more pessimistic than he was, because of knowing that people, you know, don't like stuff known, I wasn't sure we'd get anybody, because they'd think, oh, well, everybody, all the others are going to know I've got money problems. So that's partly why we did it as we did. But I had feedback from several people, and actually over the time since we did it, I have seen and given sort of budgeting tools and things to around 10 to 12 people. Sometimes it's just, oh, I'm in a muddle. Sometimes it's, well, can you help me to budget better? Sometimes it's, I'm not sure about this benefit. Can you talk about it? So all those things have happened, and they are still happening. In fact, we've had one query this week. So it goes on. I don't know quite what Cap thought of us when we said, could we have some resources, because we trained in 2014, and it was a long time and couldn't get into the website. But certainly it seems very much to have worked. People are not afraid of the subject anymore.
Yeah.
And they know they're not going to be judged.
And you've set a culture in church that it's okay to talk about it, I think, is the first thing to say. And I think it's interesting that it's 18 months ago you started this, and actually people are still realizing that the church is a place they can talk, basically. Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I think something that we failed to do is sort of follow up that initial series of CAP presentations, because 18 months has gone by and we've not really mentioned it until last week, actually, when we did a quick slot in the service, just reminding people that, especially with COVID, debt is escalating and people must feel free to talk about it, and we've got money coaches. And I think on the back of that, this person made contact, and we talked yesterday. But I wonder whether we should have, perhaps at 6 monthly intervals, thought, let's just remind people that this is available and it's a really good thing. I think one of the scary things we learned from CAP was that on average, it takes people 3 years from hearing about cap debt advice to actually asking for it. And 3 years is too long.
Absolutely. It takes people a long time. And even just getting to, even if you're not struggling with money, just getting to a situation where you feel you could talk to somebody about your own money situation, it seems like it takes people quite a long time to process that. I'm very aware as you talk that you obviously train in cap money. So you already have some expertise within the church, and there are other resources available as well as CAP. There's lots of different money trainings that people can go on, but a lot of churches won't have that resource within the church. Do you think this is something that churches should do or could do without, having someone like Veronica, who's a CAP money coach? Is it something that churches could do even if they don't have that expertise? Just to advise, would you advise it's a good thing to do anyway? Or
I think it is a very good thing, because I think, as Clive said, money is part of discipleship. It's part of our stewardship. And actually, I believe, because I'm an LLM as well, but I believe very strongly that it's part of our pastoral care. I think it's very important. And Alison can tell everyone that I'm actually really passionate about this, because I know what it's like. There have been times in my life I've had to live on benefit. I shared actually on Sunday that because a job went pear-shaped on me, I actually had to live for 9 months off my credit card. And so I know what it's like, and I know that it can happen to anyone. And that's why I think it's one of the things that we should be doing in our churches. I don't think people necessarily need to be cap money trained, but they do need to be aware of things like budgeting tools. So if people have got, I don't know, accountancy expertise, treasurer expertise, whatever, within their churches, then it's something to think about, I think. And if that expertise isn't there, then that's perhaps something we need to pray in.
Yeah, absolutely. Find out where there is expertise and pray about it, and then know where you can go. Because I guess you don't want to open a can of worms, do you? And then feel that you just left that open and it makes it worse. Clive, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the prime mover for us doing it was a sense of pastoral responsibility. I think there is a secondary plus from it. As you said, often in church, the only time we talk about money is about church giving and stewardship. And I've often thought that, here we are asking people to consider their tithe, to increase their giving. How many people actually are in control of their finances, are budgeting, know actually how much income they've got, and know what percentage they can give from it? And it seems to me that if you can get people to be more practically organized with their money, then it may well have a positive impact on church giving. But I think the pastoral thing is the primary thing. It's loving our neighbor.
Absolutely. Whole life discipleship, I think, is what how you explained it to me when you talked about it before. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we might come back to you for some questions, but I'd love to now just to include Cassius. I'd like to introduce to you Cassius, who is one of the most delightful people in the universe. So no pressure, Cassius. But he's brilliant. So Cassius, would you like to introduce yourself and a bit about your roles? And then I've got a couple of questions I'd love to ask you about generally talking about money.
Yeah, sure. So I am the Just Finance Development Worker for the Black Country, covering the areas of Sandwell, Dudley, Walsall and Wolverhampton. I live in sunny Birmingham, and I was previously, I'm married to a North Londoner, so we lived in Edmonton for over 10 years. I also worked in the Tollington parish in Finsbury Park as a youth and community worker previous to coming into ordained ministry.
Brilliant. Thank you, Cassius. And Cassius is a minister in the Wesleyan Holiness Church. Have I got that title? I always get it wrong. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Wesleyan Holiness Church. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. So also knows about being in ministry and pastoring a congregation, as well as working in this area as well. So I don't know how you do everything you do, but you do, which is wonderful. So Cassius, do you want to talk a little bit about why you are passionate about this area? Why do you think it's important that we should be thinking about this at all? And how, how did you end up being part of your world?
Yeah, sure. I think it was really helpful actually just hearing the introduction from Reverend Clive and Veronica to start with. I think I've recognized a lot more now that I've been doing this job just over 2 years of the importance of trying to demystify conversations around money. I think there are programs like Cap Money that are fantastic. We also have in the Black Country community money advice services, independent debt advice services who all do great work. We try and work quite closely with our credit unions as well. But we've just recognized at a really base level, when you asked me the question about why churches should talk about money, just recognizing that this is, as a starting point, a subject that we need to be more comfortable engaging with, both for our congregations and I think the wider communities that we serve. So that's why this has become important to me. And I did notice someone typed in the chat about lived experience being really important. I can talk from the perspective of really struggling with debt, not wanting to open the door, not wanting to open letters, not wanting to answer phone calls, and thankfully having family and friends who could support myself and my wife so that we could get through what was quite a difficult period. But also recognizing in the current context that actually lots of people will be struggling financially. There will be additional pressures on relationships as a result of that. So I think this is really important work for us to be engaged in as Christians.
Great, wonderful. And I think, that lived experience is so important, and I think it helps you understand it from a different perspective that you can't if you haven't had experience. But we all have to deal with money, don't we? And we all have that in our lives. So why is it, do you think, we don't talk about it as much? Particularly church, it's quite a taboo subject in church, isn't it? Why don't we? Why aren't we more open with each other about our own money situations? What do you think the barriers are?
I suppose starting with a personal perspective, I can remember just the shame of being, in a situation of debt and really not wanting to share that with anyone, not really wanting to talk about it, just hoping or pretending that things would just sort themselves out and be okay. So I think there's that perspective, but I also recognize, and again, I think Veronica mentioned this previously, that culturally, we don't like talking about money. There is this sense of, the subject being taboo or money being really private. My own background is Caribbean. I was born in Birmingham. I'm a proud Brummie. So I feel as if I have the two strands, I think, both from the Caribbean side culturally and also the British side. There is this sense that actually we don't like talking about money, and I think that translates into our churches as well. However, I've learned a lot more, particularly working in this job, that actually the Bible talks a huge amount about money, and there are lots of references through the ministry of Jesus, through the stories that he told, that we can actually use to engage from Scripture in terms of conversations about money. And I think again, absolutely right in terms of just our pastoral care for people. we have to include money, I think, as part of those conversations. And I think Reverend Clive was really wise just in using the Sunday morning services to have, to open up those conversations. Often, if there is a course or if it's a Sunday evening, we know that lots of people will opt out, and potentially I think there's a greater opportunity to reduce stigma if we're just saying, actually, we're doing this for everybody. It would be great to raise our awareness together. So yeah, just great hearing about the experience of others.
Great. So one sort of take home is, don't make it a sort of targeted intervention for people with problems. Just make it assuming that everybody has money, whether they're in a good situation or a bad situation, and that's something that we can all talk about, because we all have to have money as a daily life.
I think it's a really important starting point. I think, there's a spectrum of help that we need for different situations, dealing with different individuals in different contexts. But if we can create a culture as a starting point where we're more comfortable about talking about money in general, that it helps. But we also, as part of my work, and I know as part of yours and others who will be on this, we'll work with services who are able to give free debt advice, where people might be really struggling and might need more significant help. So I'm not a trained financial advisor or debt advisor, but I know that those services are required and really important for people to be able to access. We have a significant problem in the region that I serve with loan sharks, for example. And so one of the things that we're really keen to do is to make sure that if people are struggling, that they seek help in the right places, rather than potentially, exacerbating the problems, or getting loans from inappropriate places, or that are going to cost them huge amounts to try and repay.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think if the first tip is, make sure you don't target it as an intervention, but do it as a general thing to make sure people don't feel that they're being pointed at. The second thing would be, make sure you know where to refer people on, so that you've got good places that you can pass people, that sort of known, trusted places, whether that's a CAP centre or community money advice or citizens advice or somewhere, so they're not going to fall into the wrong hands effectively. But you don't have to be the expert, is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Again, I think it was mentioned before that we may not be able to train everybody to a particular standard, but if there's a small bit of information that people can have around the national services that are on offer, that will offer free help, like citizens advice, like step change, like the national debt line, but also, people on the call will know about their own local communities and organisations where people are able to access help for free. So, there are, that I think just raising the awareness at that level can be a huge help.
Wonderful, great, thank you. I feel there's loads we could talk more about. I know we wanted to just touch a little bit on the link between people who have money problems and mental health and stress and worry and anxiety. And I think certainly with what's going on with COVID, that's a lot of people's worries, particularly who have pastoral responsibility for people. People are going to be struggling alone with money problems. Could you just talk a little bit about the link between those things and what we can do about them?
Yeah, sure. I think that there's been a lot more that's been written recently around how worrying about money makes mental health worse. I was reading in The Guardian this morning, restrictions to curb the spread of coronavirus in the UK has driven stress, anxiety and depression as well. So on top of the normal stresses that we're having to deal with in everyday life, I think the fact that we're having to live, with this pandemic and under different lockdown restrictions add to the levels of stress. And I can certainly relate to that again from a personal point of view when we we struggled with debt. You know, if you're not able to sleep because you're worrying about money, if you're not eating properly, either because you can't afford to eat well, or your appetite is going because you're worrying about money. All of these things, I think, add to the general level of stress. And we know that there are thousands of people around the country who are having to deal with a financial shock currently, whether it's the loss of a job or furlough, or even the increased tension in a relationship that money worries can bring. All add, I think, to the challenges around our own well-being.
Absolutely. So it's not just about numerical numbers on a page, it's actually about emotional and pastoral well-being, really, in terms of particularly what Clive was saying about pastoral support. This is not just a money issue. So talking about money can potentially help all that as well, not just helping someone get out of debt, but also thinking about all the other things that are going on. Yeah, brilliant. I mean, we could talk. I think the link between money and mental health, I think, is a huge one, and perhaps something that we should think about exploring more further later. But I'm conscious of time. I just would love, Cassius, I'd love you to talk a little bit about a resource that you've developed in the Black Country that you could share with us, the cards that you've developed, which are, I think, are a brilliant way of getting people started talking about money.
Our Jesus money cards.
Yay!
There you go. We, as I said previously, we've just recognised that we do need at one end of the spectrum debt services for really intensive support for people who have significant issues with debt. But at the other end of the spectrum, just wanting to start conversations about money are really important. And so we developed these cards about 6 months ago, I think. Now they were launched, and they're really just open discussion starters around money and around finance, called Jesus Money. Some are specifically church related, but they're easily identifiable if you're working with a group outside of a church context. And they can also be used in an online context, so recognizing that for lots of us, we're not able to have coffee mornings or home groups in the usual way that we would have done previously. They can be used in a group context online, just to start conversations about money. And I think, as Reverend Clive and Veronica were saying earlier, actually just giving that opportunity for people to share experience in a safe, non-judgmental, non-threatening environment can be hugely beneficial. So they can be ordered online, and I think they're £10, including postage and packaging. So yeah, please do get in contact if you would like to order a pack.
Brilliant. I've just put the link in the chat, but I'll send around. We've had a lot of conversation, touched on lots of different things. I will make sure that afterwards I send it all around to everybody. But thank you for sharing that, Cassius. I'd had a look at them and I think they're brilliant. So that's why I was asking Cassius to plug them. So apologies if you didn't want to sound like a marketing spiel, but I think they're a really good resource that more of us could use and know about. So thanks, Cassius. I would love to, we've got quite a lot of questions and thoughts. I'm sure you've all been, there's been conversation going on in the chat, but I'd love it if anyone has any specific questions. I've got a few already in the chat, but I will, if anyone wants to speak now, do either put your hand up or I can go to the chat. So if there's anything anyone's desperate to say right now, any questions or thoughts for Veronica or Clive? John, Pat, was that a clap or is that a, that's a hand up? Okay, well, John and Pat, I think, were asking. So do you want to, John, should we come to you first?
I was just going to say, I think Clive and Veronica both mentioned that running Cap Money in the church. Yeah. It really is easy to run Cap Money in the church. I think there are 800 or 900 churches across this country now that run Cap Money. To be trained as a Cap Money course, you go to Cap, they run them in various places around the country 3 or 4 times a year. It's 1 day's training. So really, any church with anything like money problems in the congregation, which has to be every church, 1 day's training, and you could be a Cap Money course coach and then run the course in your church. I really recommend that.
Brilliant. And actually, I think Debbie was going to say a little bit about that. Would you be able to just talk a little bit? Because I think you've been doing the company course, aren't you?
So a couple of things from me. Thanks for that, Alison. So yeah, John is right. The training is one day, and I'll let you into a little secret. It's open book, so you don't even have to remember the answers. It's all kind of there for you. But it is quite easy to do. We've been running Cap Money for a little while in our church, but what we found is, to your point about talking about money, Alison, the tide has changed. So with COVID, people are actually a lot more open to talk about money and the concerns they have. And I run the coach I run the program with Pat. So we both just done one last night. And what we found is, I think Clive mentioned it before, in the church building, we might have got maybe 6 or 7 people. The last couple of courses we ran had 15 people joining. So people are becoming, and I think it's because it's agnostic in terms of area. You can just jump on a Zoom call. But people are actually talking about money. And I've been really pleased before COVID about the media talking about the M word, the money word, and that spouses don't speak to each other. As a debt manager, I get to see people who are very much in debt. And really the whole thing is around shame and judgment and feeling they're going to be judged. So that's why people don't talk about money. So the more we talk about it, the more open people will get and the more comfortable they'll be in those situations. So yeah, I would encourage people to either join CAP or whatever organization they want and just start those money conversations. I think those Jesus cards sound like a really good idea. So we just did a course yesterday and we had 10 people on there, and they were really open, and Pat will probably tell you a bit more, but they were really open to just talk about where they're finding they're getting into problems or where their debt's not managing. And the way that we promote the course for those that are not in debt is we say it's about you being in control of money and money not controlling you. So you don't have to be in debt. It's just, you could be on a 6-figure salary. It's just about being able to control your money. So I hope that's been helpful. Are you on mute, Alison?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think what you said about it suddenly being a time where actually everybody is struggling with money. So suddenly it feels like it's okay to say, oh, I'm not coping very well. Whereas previously perhaps people had to hide it. But because COVID has sort of thrown everything into the air, people who previously would never have thought they might struggle with money might be. So actually it means that there's a more openness. We've got a bit of a window for people to be more open about money.
Absolutely.
Perhaps. Maybe that's what you're finding with your courses. That's brilliant. There was a question from Ben about cost, and I think Jan's already answered that. Is that right? I love these things because everyone helps. Jan, you said you'd done a money, was it Jan or yes, did a CAP money coaching course and it was £15. Is that right?
Yes, only that it does take time to get signed up on them, but I've got them running online now. It's half a day, 4 hours, 15 quid. Go for it.
Brilliant. That's really helpful to know. So
Alison,
go on. Yeah.
Just to jump in as well, I know that you'll be far too modest to say, but we also run a COVID cash course, which is a 2.5-hour course that's free for people to access.
Mm-hmm.
And Alison is brilliant. She's the one who actually wrote the original materials that have been developed into this course. And so there are lots of options that are out there for people to access in terms of training. And I would just say, look at the menu and think about what fits best for your context. So yeah, just to encourage people to research that there are lots of options that are out there.
Absolutely. And if you're interested specifically in looking at budgeting skills and money management, we've actually got a whole session on that next week. I think it's next Tuesday, and there's a few places left. So if specifically you're thinking, I want to run either an informal course or just having some skills within my community, do come to that on Wednesday, because we've got some people from all the different courses. We've got CAP Money, we've got the Community Money Advice, Crosslight have developed a money course, and there's also the COVID cash course, which has been developed as a specific response to people's financial shock post-COVID. So there's, in terms of resources, there's a lot out there. I think the main thing is just starting those conversations and getting them going. So yeah, I'll send the information around about the session next Wednesday. If money budgeting courses is what you're thinking, actually that's the way to do it for us. For some people it is literally just having those conversations with your neighbours, with your friends, and with people that locally. If you've got pastoral responsibility, people just checking in on them. And one of the things when Cassius and I ran some courses at the beginning of lockdown for people helping those going through financial shock. The first thing is just don't be scared to ask the question, how are you doing with money? Because we all feel it sticks in our throat a bit, doesn't it? But actually just maybe practice a phrase that you feel comfortable with. If you're concerned that someone's struggling, just the first stage is you to be bold and ask them how they're doing. So I think that's another big part of what those courses help you do, really, aren't they? I think, all the training. Brilliant. We've got so many questions.
Alison, just to add as well really quickly, Alison was really wise in helping us to think as ministers, as people working in churches and communities, to make sure that we're also taking care of our own well-being as we're supporting others. So, you know, for those of you who are on the call, whether you're running Cap Money courses, if you're a minister offering support, please do also invest in your own well-being and take care, because we recognise that we need to be in this for the long haul to support people who may be struggling.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Cassius. Yeah, a good reminder. I'm just aware that people may not have had a chance to ask questions. I know that in the chat, Jenny, you initially said, does CAP relate to housing problems and homelessness? I think some people have answered that in the chat. Are you, is that okay? You happy with the answers that they gave? Right, yeah. I mean, we're talking about money. I think money is a gateway to lots of other things, like homelessness, like evictions, like worries about bailiffs, and actually it's a much bigger problem, and I think it's about making sure that you could signpost onto the right services. And when it comes to homelessness and potential homelessness, there are organisations that can help with that, but I think this is really just looking at getting those conversations going. Jan, you talked about empowering young people as they leave home or go to university around money. It's a really key time for people to understand about money, and I'm not sure we're going to have time to talk about it in too much depth here, but I remember, I think Veronica and Clive, you had some experience in your church of some younger people engaging with the stuff that you did. Would you be able to briefly share that?
Yes, I didn't mention that when we, after the first half an hour, when we sent the children to their groups, we actually asked the teenager group to stay behind, so they were treated like adults. And I know that one of them went home and started doing a budget sheet because she was going to go to university in 5 years' time. And I thought, yeah, if the young people get this at that age, I think that's really, really, helpful.
It's brilliant. Because the area I live is, I suppose it's affluent, it's Surrey, Hampshire. So people will not want to admit that they've got problems, but it's still going to, problems could develop unless young people get on hold of their cash now. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. And like you say, it's and it's an uncertain future for everyone, but particularly for young people, isn't it? Right, I think Pat had a hand up about 1 million years ago. Sorry, Pat. Can I come to you? What do you want to say?
Well, there's been so many things that have been said. There's so many things that I could answer, but I'll try and keep it brief. So firstly, it was kind of a question to Clive. I'm sort of quite intrigued by you doing the course in church, because Debbie and I, it was quite funny actually. It's quite strange to remember back in the days when we used to run the CAP course in church, because we've done so many online now, and we've worked really, really hard to rewrite the course so it's very interactive online with lots of polls and things like that. I'm just wondering how, in such a large group, did you demonstrate the CAP money system, or did you just use the videos to sort of introduce the idea of talking about budgeting?
Veronica, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I'll try. Yes, Clive and I did a bit of a double act, really. Because he introduced each section. Yes, we used the videos, but we did also do activities with people. You know, the sort of icebreaker was the, do you do this or do you do that? And, you know, are you a spender or a saver? And actually, there was quite a lot. I said in the end, well, I'm not asking anyone to admit it, which way, but who found out? And actually, there was quite a lot of laughter. And the fact that we were sort of one group doing it together, we weren't talking about, you know, oh, you mustn't do this, or you mustn't do that, or whatever. We made it very practical, very interactive. So it wasn't just, you know, spouting the videos or looking at the sheets, but we produced a sort of interactive pack which had the forms go, and we had a bit of a go in church so that people could get the idea. And I think most people actually were, you know, they found it much more fun in the end than they thought they were going to, I think.
It's 12 o'clock now, so I'm aware that I've promised you it'll be an hour. I need it to finish in an hour because we all have busy lives, and we could probably spend another hour, I feel like, talking about this, but there's a reason that Zoom is limited, and I think we all get quite tired, don't we? So wonderful to have you all with us. I'm sorry it's sort of very brief. It feels like we've had a very fast conversation, but I will just say, first of all, thank you so much, Clive and Veronica, for joining us and sharing your experience. Are you happy if people get in touch and want to talk to you more? Is that okay if I could pass on your details? Great. If anyone wants to have any more questions specifically. Thank you, Cassius, as well, for sharing of yourself and all that you do. Again, are you happy if people want to get in touch with you? Wonderful.
Sure, absolutely.
Brilliant. Bless you all in all you're doing, and do keep us in touch with what you're doing. And if we can support you in any way as Capital Mass, we would be delighted to.